Greetings, golf enthusiast. Pat Perry here, and I am your fantasy golf sommelier. You might have noticed that things are a little different this year. Well, it's 2021. Things change. A lot changed in 2020. We're going to make things even better in 2021. And so I will be bringing you the weekly fantasy golf sommelier in video format as opposed to written format, which I'm sure some of you, perhaps most of you, are quite happy about. And I am too. So as I sit here, I'm going to start by pouring myself a glass of wine. You may wonder what I'm drinking. Well, the good folks over at Wine Access, yes, Wine Access, have sent me this 2018 Orin Swift Cellars 8 Years in the Desert California Red. Yes, I said that correctly. It is a long name. 2018 Orin Swift Cellars 8 Years in the Desert California Red. It is from Napa Valley, and you know, it's a good looking red. We'll kind of swirl it here. What I'm doing when I'm swirling like this, even though I'm not a very good swirler, let me try that again. Swirl, swirl, swirl. There we go. Swirl. So it's letting it breathe a little bit. So we talk about letting wine breathe, and what that does is basically, you know, wine is a living and breathing thing, right? Because we got yeast in there, I think, and some other things. And so when you open it up, when you open up a bottle like the Orin Swift here that Wine Access sent me, you kind of open it up to the air. It brings out some, it oxidizes it, I believe is the term, and brings out the aromas, the flavors, and all that kind of stuff. Now, most people might sit there and just let their bottle just sit there and breathe. Well, you know what? You can speed that up a little bit if you just swirl it around like I did. I'm a very good swirler. Anyway, it's really good. That is good. It's good. I'll tell you what I'm tasting. I am tasting, this is very opaque to the core. It's effusive and kind of has a jammy raspberry, blackberry fruit meld to it. Hang on. Yeah. So cracked pepper, tarragon, I think some vanilla there. Yeah, vanilla. Very rich and opulent wine. My palate, it kind of follows, flows through the palate. It's full bodied. It's got a kind of a soft, fleshy tannins. That sort of supports a blueberry and black tea flavors. You might ask how I know all that. Well, besides being a sommelier, Wine Access puts all that in the tasting notes, so it's pretty easy. But anyway, I mean, I am a sommelier, so I knew all that stuff anyway that they put in the tasting notes, but it was good to get, their backup on it. On the show, on the podcast, David mentioned he liked how Wine Access likes to give you, kind of the time that you can, pop it open, and pop the cork, and then until it's kind of bad, like if you don't drink it quick enough. I've never met a bottle of wine that I'm not going to drink quick enough. This bottle will be gone this evening. I'm not going to just let it sit for a couple of days. So I don't really care about that, but some people might. But I think that's a nice added touch. I don't care. I'm going to finish the damn bottle of wine. Anyway, so what we're going to do on a weekly basis here is we're going to talk some wine. Of course, this is a Fantasy Golf Sommelier. I have to bring my expertise to the video. What we're also going to do is talk my picks of the week. Now, in the article, I used to give kind of my favorite plays, and then I had 3 separate things. So I had the Boone's Farm Fade of the Week, which, if you know what Boone's Farm is, it's basically just crap wine. I don't even know if they can call it wine, but they sell it at gas stations. It's bad. So we have the Boone's Farm Fade of the Week, very fitting. We have the $10 wine special. So that's the guys that I like that are cheap, but they're good. You know, they're like a good wine, but they're cheap, and everybody likes that. You know, we want that $10 wine special, the go-to wine that's going to come through for us every time. I'm not saying this pick is going to come through every time, but that's the theory behind it. And then we're going to have the Pop the Cork play of the week. This is my favorite play of the week. This is the guy that I did not mention on the podcast that is kind of popping for me, for lack of a better way to put it, later in the week. A guy that I looked a little more closely at outside of my initial research. You know, I may have seen some things with the weather. I may have seen just something pop for me later in the week for this guy. And so that's who the Pop the Cork play of the week is going to be. So I think what we should do is get into the plays here. And I'm going to start with the Boone's Farm Fade of the week. Okay, so we're going to start with the Boone's Farm Fade. Now, this week, I think it's really hard to fade almost anybody in this field, other than, you know, the cheap guys or whatever. With these top guys, you could make a case for all of them. All of them are solid players. There's no cut. I mean, there's really it's just hard to really kind of, you know, pinpoint a guy that you can just like absolute fade. But this guy, I am going to fade this week. I'm seeing ownership close to 20%. Now, you're going to see that with several guys in this field because it's so small. But Xander Schauffele. Yes, I'm going to fade Xander Schauffele. Now, we've seen him win here a couple years ago, almost won last year, probably should have won. And I just feel like we're going to see a little bit of drop in my boy Xander this week. I love him. Look, I mean, he's a good dude. But I just think, you know, he's coming off of COVID. That can be a concern. One of the things we know about COVID, we think, I don't know, who knows. But I think you can have some fatigue. There's a little bit of a fatigue factor, travel, whatever else can enhance that. So I feel like Xander could just be due for, you know, a little bit of a rough week. I think he's going to have a great year. I'm not so like just confident that we see a good week from Xander, where I want to really play him in my tournament lineups, and I'm not playing cash this week. So I'm going to fade Xander Schauffele. He will be the Boone's Farm Fade of the week. Let's move on, though, to the $10 wine special. The $10 wine special is a guy that I did mention on the podcast that I like very much. He is at 6,900, and that is Mr. Lanto Griffin. Yes, I love some Lanto Griffin. He's 8th in strokes gained approach. We talked about that on the podcast. I think the approach game is huge this week. When you just look at this course, I mean, it's an easy course as long as the wind's not howling, which I don't think it's going to be doing the entire tournament, maybe here and there. But this is, you know, you've got wide open fairways. These greens are huge. You've got to be great on approach. I think that's important here. He putts well on Bermuda. So I think that's important. We got Bermuda grass, even though it is going to be a little bit slower. I don't think, you know, that's going to be a huge thing that I look at, but just something that, you know, pay attention to. He is a good putter on Bermuda. You know, he had that miscut at the Masters, but I'm not putting a whole lot into that. I mean, I don't really think, you know, we know the whole first timers narrative at the Masters and whatever else. And, you know, it was a different atmosphere than with no fans. And I don't know. I'm not putting anything into his miscut at the Masters because he was in pretty good form when you think about it before he got to the Masters. And had a very solid 13th place finish here last year. So, I mean, I think that was, you know, that's something that's huge to look at as well. one thing that's huge to look at also is my battery power on my computer here. It's not looking good. So we're going to have to speed this up a little bit, I think. Anywho, let me take another sip here. Yeah, definite blackberry peppers, I think. As it's breathing, more and more comes out. That's really good. All right, so let's get to the Pop the Cork play of the week, and that is going to be Mr. Sungjae Im, or Sungjae Im, as the great Chalk Bomb Ben likes to say. Not sure how he got that, but anyway, Sungjae Im is at 8,200 on DraftKings this week. And look, I just haven't seen a whole lot of talk about the guy. I mean, I think he's going to be, somewhere in that 15 to 20% ownership range. But still, I think he's a great play. I mean, you look at the stats. He's 10th in the field off the tee. He's 13th in strokes gained approach, top 10 in opportunities gained, top 10 in par 5 scoring. So I think Mr. Sungjae Im is a great play this week. Now, we've never seen him play at this course, but I don't really care about that. I think he can still have a good week. Look, the guy played fantastic at the Masters. He's just like a robot. He's so damn good. So I think you can pop the cork and play a little Sungjae Im for the Tournament of Champions. So there you go. That will be the Pop the Cork. Yeah, Sungjae tastes good this week. Right now, that's all I got, friends. I will be back next week for the Sony Open at Wailea, and this will probably be way better, or it may be worse, or it may be different. It may be totally different. I don't even know. We're gonna grow with this Fantasy Golf Sommelier thing. We're gonna learn from it. We want to hear from you. Comment somewhere. I think you can comment in places. And you can say, hey, this is what I think you should do this week. Or maybe wear something different. Or maybe, do it this way. I want to hear about this as far as wine. Or this is some misconception that people have about wine. Like, you may know more about wine than I do. I highly doubt it, but you might. So give me some, comment down below. Give me some pointers. Go check out the podcast. We've got Ben has some great new Chalk Bomb Ben, great new content that's coming out. DB has something. I wasn't listening to him, but he has something that's coming out too that's added on. So yeah, so there you go. This has been the Golf Sommelier for the Sentry Tournament of Champions. Out.